Welcome to my studio. As artists, obviously we use tools all the time to achieve results that we want. Some are common tools, of course, the brush, the palette knife, and some other tools tend to be exotic in ways. Some are personal and we create them because we want to achieve specific results or use a specific technique that requires them. Others are more common and all artists use them in one way or another. What I want to do in the next few videos is to share with you the tools that I use in my studio. Again, some of them are going to be common that you've heard of or used yourselves, and some are going to be different. Some are going to be things that I've created myself, and you're welcome to use them as well if they're ideas that you want to use. Either way, let's go take a look through my studio, pick up some tools, and see what we can end up with. Come on, let's go. When we're working in watercolors, we're not always looking to add color. Sometimes we're looking to subtract color. And it's pretty hard to subtract watercolors sometimes, especially if it's staining and hard to remove. So what I use for that is I use some tools such as X-Acto knives and such knives in general, or I also use some sandpaper. Medium grit, this is metal sandpaper, so it's very rough from that perspective, and I use these in specific ways. I'll go ahead and show you. When I'm using the sandpaper, I'll use it either with my finger, rolled around my finger like that, and pull it along the paper so that it removes some elements that way, or I can use it wrapped around a board or wrapped around a credit card like this so that I can get a nice edge removed. So let me go ahead and do that. This is an old painting, it's just a demo, so let me just show you what I mean by that. I'm using the tip on the edge down there, and you can see how I can create a nice highlight across that point down there just by using sandpaper to do that. Now I can use sandpaper. I can also use an X-Acto knife to achieve the same result. So if I want to go back and do this portion here, I'll just use the tip of my X-Acto knife and pull it across like this. I can also use a ruler to make sure that I'm on a straight line if I want to, and that may help also delineate some elements in the painting if I'm a bit sloppy when I'm painting, and I'm always very sloppy in my painting. So it can create lines like this for you, and do these for that way. So these are X-Acto knives in general. Some are thicker than others. I also found this is a sort of a point that you can get from a hardware store. It's for whittling, I think, or something like that. I'm not sure what it's for, but it works perfectly for me because I can put it in a pen like this, and it is very sharp and very thin and very useful from that perspective. And I can go in and create lines that are very small lines where I want them, just to create highlights and things like that. So don't be afraid to look for tools. Sometimes they're more useful than others. But the sandpaper as well, you can use it flat across, and when I do that, it creates a nice shimmer in the lake like this. Okay, so if I've lost the light, if I forgot to pull it properly using a brush, then I can come back and I can save it. Whenever you do something like this, what you want to do at the end is get some tape and go ahead and pull any dust that is hiding in those grooves. Especially where you're using a sandpaper flat like this, you really want to make sure that you pull away as much of the dust that settles in as possible so that it looks nice and clean. You may need to use more than one piece, and just make sure that you do it right and it looks good across the board. Okay, so this is these are sort of scraping tools. This is common in watercolors, by the way. Winslow Homer used to do it all the time in his painting. So coming back and lifting and bringing back the white with an X-Acto knife or sandpaper, for me, it's much more interesting than using white, watercolor white to achieve the same results. This is purer white than you'll get with watercolor. One last thing, once you're done with all of this and you are ready to call it a day on this painting, one of the things that I will do is I'll go back and get a bone. This is used to basically bend paper for bookmaking, and just go in and press this down where I scrape the paper. And essentially what I'm trying to do, and hoping will happen, is to push back the paper into the grooves, or to eliminate that bumpiness that's on the paper. And it does, it works very nicely when you do that. And that will help your painting live longer, because essentially what happens is there's not going to be any dust accumulating in those grooves, and who knows what that dust holds. But once you press it like this, it goes back to being very smooth and nice. Be careful you don't rub it too much, because if you do, then it starts to get shiny. That's not the point. We're not trying to get it shiny. We're just trying to push the fibers of the paper back in place.